A crossroads is a simple but powerful idea. Choose a path and live with the consequences. We all end up here at some point. 7 musicians chose their path and each left an indelible mark on our culture. All of their flames burnt brightly, and all were gone at age 27. We begin in the Mississippi Delta, birthplace of one of the most important and influential musicians in history. Robert Johnson was born in Hazelhurst, Mississippi in 1911. He played guitar and sang on street corners, outside restaurants, and in juke joints. But the story surrounding his rapid development as a musician and performer has become one of the greatest legends in music history. Son House, a fellow blues musician, remembers seeing a younger Robert at a local juke joint, playing harmonica and fumbling on guitar in a way that didn't impress him or anyone.
And I said, don't never do that. I said, Robert, you can blow your harmonica. I said, you can blow pretty good. I said, but you run the people nuts when you do that. They don't want to hear that stuff you're doing. After
that, Johnson disappeared from the Delta for about 6 months. And on his return, things had changed.
And then when he did come back, he come back with this guitar on his back. I said, okay, let's see what happened. And he started playing. Then I turned around, I said, uh-oh, let's go back and hear this. I said, listen to this boy, will you?
House was later quoted as saying that Johnson must have sold his soul to the devil in exchange for learning to play like that. This became the famous story of Robert Johnson going down to the Crossroads, where he meets the devil, sells his soul, and becomes a legend. With his newfound skills, Johnson attracted enough attention to warrant 2 recording sessions in his lifetime. The first in 1936 in a makeshift studio, room 414 of the Gunter Hotel in San Antonio, Texas, and a second session the following year at the former Warner Brothers Exchange Building at 508 Park Avenue in Dallas. 29 songs were cut across those 2 sessions. The recordings immortalized Johnson's sound. His slide guitar, his voice, and his songs of love, loss, and the devil became something far more reaching and transformative than anything he could have ever imagined. Robert Johnson died on August 16, 1938. Some say it was congenital syphilis. Some say a jealous husband handed him a poisoned bottle of whiskey. Maybe the devil came to collect his due. He was just 27 years old. His sound lived on through Muddy Waters, Elmore James, B.B. King, and Chuck Berry. And in 1961, more than 20 years after his death, Columbia Records issued King of the Delta Blues Singers, an anthology of Johnson's 2 recording sessions. It became one of the most influential records of all time. And it was a tune penned by Robert Johnson that a young Brian Jones was playing in a club in West London in 1962, when who should walk in the room but Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. Brian recruited them into his band. He called them the Rolling Stones. You've probably heard of them. The Stones were one of the biggest acts to emerge from the British blues boom, and ultimately one of the most enduring rock acts of all time. Brian Jones played slide guitar and harmonica, and found a niche within his group as a gifted multi-instrumentalist. He brought a rare sophistication and elegance to the Stones' early sound. That's his marimba on Under My Thumb, his zither on Paint It Black, his recorder on Ruby Tuesday, and his dulcimer on Lady Jane. His turtlenecks, velvet jackets, furs, frilled shirts, and blonde bob helped define London's swinging 60s aesthetic. But as integral as his contribution was to the sound and style that made the Stones one of the biggest bands in the world, Jones gradually came to feel sidelined in the group that he formed.
My ultimate aim in life was never to be a pop star. I enjoy it, with reservations, but I'm not really sort of satisfied either artistically or personally.
As Jagger and Richards emerged as the Stones' primary songwriters and frontmen, Jones' role shifted from visionary to sideman. With less say over the band's direction, he grew increasingly distant from his bandmates.
This is why I have no sort of concrete ideas on the future, because I really don't know when things are going to come to an end or what's going to happen.
By the late 60s, the lifestyle had caught up with him. His drug and alcohol use became problematic, even by Rolling Stone standards. He began turning up to sessions too out of it to participate. His behaviour became unpredictable, self-destructive, too much for his bandmates to tolerate. So in mid-1969, with an American tour approaching, Jagger, Richards and drummer Charlie Watts visited Jones at his London home and broke the news. He was no longer a member of the group that he formed. A month later, he was found motionless at the bottom of his swimming pool at Cochford Farm. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. He was just 27 years old. The coroner's report stated it was drowning, later clarified as death by misadventure. Conspiracy theories surrounding his death have been thrown about ever since. Jones left behind at least 5 children from 5 different women. The band he formed and named continued on and on and on. But 2 years before his death, Jones helped ignite the next fuse, stepping on stage at the 1967 Monterey Pop Festival to introduce an artist who was about to set the rock world on fire.
One of the most exciting guitarist I've ever heard. The Jimi Hendrix Experience.
James Marshall Hendrix was born in Seattle in 1942. He was a shy kid with a second-hand guitar that he taught himself how to play. After a stint in the 101st Airborne, Hendrix found regular paid work on the Chitlin Circuit, a network of venues that offered black musicians safe, paying gigs during segregation. He backed the Isley Brothers, Curtis Knight and Little Richard. Check out this footage of Jimmy on the Night Train TV show with Buddy and Stacy. But the following year, Jimi Hendrix stepped out from the back line and onto the British rock scene when Chas Chandler of The Animals brought him to London. He formed the Jimi Hendrix Experience with Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, and almost overnight, a new guitar hero was born. While America barely knew his name, Britain crowned him a phenomenon. Then came Monterey, June 1967, with Brian Jones doing the honours. Jimmy walked on and wrote himself into rock history. It's impossible to overstate the influence Jimi Hendrix had on rock guitar, how it's played, the sounds it can produce, and the music it can create on stage and in the studio. His albums effectively rewrote the genre.
You're considered one of the best guitar players in the world.
And on a Monday morning at the end of the 60s, the stragglers who remained at Woodstock witnessed Hendrix reimagining the national anthem with feedback, distortion, rockets and bombs, all conjured from 6 strings. But constant touring, line-up changes and tussles with management were taking their toll.
Have you ever had a nervous breakdown?
Yeah, about 3 of them since I've been in this group, since I've been in this business, you know.
He built Electric Lady Studios in New York to gain control of the chaos and found new inspiration with the Band of Gypsies, combining funk grooves and deeper improvisation. Jimmy's musical horizon was wide open, and the world waited to see where the guitar genius would go next. But Jimmy never got there.
The Jimi Hendrix Experience is over. The acid rock musician died today in a London hospital, apparently from an overdose of drugs.
The coroner cited asphyxia while intoxicated with barbiturates. Alternative theories have never gone away. He was just 27 years old. The Monterey Pop Festival in 1967 wasn't just a breakout moment for Hendrix. When Janis Joplin took to the stage with her group Big Brother and the Holding Company to perform Ball and Chain, her devastatingly raw, bluesy vocal left the audience spellbound.
Tell me why does everything go wrong?
Before this set, she was little known outside San Francisco, where she'd moved to from her hometown of Port Arthur, Texas. But after Monterey, Joplin was tapped by Columbia Records, and she soon became a household name. She was an old soul in the body of a young woman, forging a path through the male-dominated world of rock and roll. But her success didn't mask the pain behind it. As a teenager, Joplin endured cruel verbal abuse and rejection throughout high school. Later, at the University of Texas at Austin, A fraternity stunt tried to elect her the ugliest man on campus.
They laughed me out of class, out of town, and out of the state. So I'm going home.
In August 1970, Janis returned to her hometown for her 10-year high school reunion. Asked why she was attending, she said, to see all those kids who are still working in gas stations and driving dry cleaning trucks while I'm making $50,000 a night. Here's Janis being interviewed at her high school reunion.
What do you remember most about Port Arthur?
I don't really no comment.
How were you different from your schoolmates when you were in TJ?
I don't know, why don't you ask them?
Years of masking her pain through alcohol abuse and shooting heroin had now determined the trajectory of Joplin's life. On Sunday, October 4, 1970, she failed to show up to a recording session at Sunset Sound in Los Angeles, where she was due to cut the vocals for a song called Buried Alive in the Blues. Her road manager drove to the landmark motor hotel where she was staying and found her lying on the floor beside the bed in room 105.
The Hollywood coroner says an overdose of narcotics, police say possibly heroin, is responsible for the death of the well-known rock singer Janis Joplin. Miss Joplin was found dead in her bedroom last night. She was 27 years old.
Buried Alive in the Blues remained an instrumental on her album Pearl, released 3 months later. It spent 9 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard chart. Janis Joplin lived hard and took no prisoners. When she once crossed paths with Jim Morrison, the era's reigning rock god, she responded to his unsolicited advance by cracking him over the head with a bottle of Southern Comfort, leaving him on the floor. Which brings us to the Lizard King himself. James Douglas Morrison was born in Melbourne, Florida in 1943. His father was a US Navy officer, so the family moved a lot. He read obsessively, filled notebooks, and gravitated to film and poetry. At UCLA, he met keyboardist Ray Manzarek. In 1965, they formed The Doors with Robbie Krieger and John Densmore. The Doors blended jazz-leaning grooves with blues, rock, and psychedelia. Their sound, centered on organ, guitar, and voice, was an American answer to the British invasion. Morrison's vocal delivery ranged from spoken word to guttural blues howling. His lyrics evoked deserts and storms, snakes and lizards, sex and death. His stage persona was magnetic but volatile. He was arrested on stage in New Haven in 1967 after clashing with police earlier that night. The charges were later dropped. He was arrested again in Miami in 1969. This time he was charged and convicted with indecent exposure and profanity.
I think that nudity it's really a cyclical phenomenon. I think it comes, it gets very liberal and extreme, then it goes back, reacts the other way, and it just seems to be a cycle in entertainment.
And in October 1970, Jim Morrison was asked to comment on the recent deaths of Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin.
Well, I guess that great creative burst of energy that happened 3 or 4 years ago was hard to sustain. And for sensitive people, I guess they might be dissatisfied with anything except, the heights. And when reality stops fulfilling their inner vision, I guess they get depressed.
But amid the chaos, court cases, and drug and alcohol abuse, Morrison still fronted up and delivered when the Doors recorded LA Woman, the last album he would make with the group. His final ever recording was the whispered overdub on Riders on the Storm.
Riders on the Storm.
He moved to Paris with his girlfriend Pamela Corson in the spring of 1971, ostensibly to escape burnout and to write poetry away from the pressures of the band. Here's some Super 8 footage of Pamela, filmed by Jim in a cemetery in France. The pair were living here at this Paris apartment when Morrison was found dead in the bathtub on July 3, 1971.
The death of another rock musician was disclosed today. Jim Morrison, 27 years old, lead singer of The Doors. His manager said Morrison died 6 days ago in Paris, either of a heart attack or pneumonia, but the death was kept secret to avoid a sensation.
The official cause of death was listed as heart failure. No autopsy was performed. Heroin has long been suspected as the culprit, but the exact circumstances of his death remain a mystery. Let's fast forward a generation. Rock, disco, punk, new wave, hip-hop and metal have all had their day in the sun. The Cold War is over. The Gulf War has begun. Music is sold on CDs, watched on MTV and programmed by tightly formatted radio. And with a new decade up for grabs, everything is about to change. Nirvana came out of Aberdeen, Washington, founded by singer, guitarist and primary songwriter Kurt Cobain, with bassist Chris Novoselic. Like 1,000 bands before them, they made their debut album on an indie label for a few $100. Their major label follow-up, Nevermind, rocketed up the charts in 1992, knocking Michael Jackson's Dangerous from #1 and unleashing the biggest pop culture shift since late 70s punk. Alternative became mainstream, and Cobain was ready to face the inevitable questions.
So many bands that have been on independent labels before and then on major labels before that. What did
the B-52s?
I love them.
Do you like Blondie? Do you like Devo?
Yeah.
Do you like the Cars?
Love them.
Well, all those bands are on major labels too.
Yeah, that's it.
And the Ramones, and the Clash, and the Sex Pistols.
The Sex Pistols.
Not to say we're half as good as any of those bands, but there's our answer for the major label question.
Does it change anything?
Yeah, it gives you more freedom because you have more money to, waste.
Kurt was conflicted between being the guy who wore the corporate magazine Still Suck t-shirt and the #1 selling pop star pictured on the front cover.
I kind of envy people at times who are blissfully happy, and a lot of those people aren't bothered with the complications of knowledge and everything else that life has to offer. I know a lot of people who are simpletons, they're very simple, that they can enjoy their lives and be totally happy and secure with, just watching sports on television and having a beer every once in a while, So, and I've always felt too complicated, so I kind of envy those people. And I'm not saying that I'm smarter than most people, it's just that I'm too sensitive, and I wish sometimes I could just enjoy the simple things in life, and just not forget about everything else.
That longing for uncomplicated happiness wasn't a pose. He battled chronic stomach pain, had an on-again, off-again reliance on heroin, and had to deal with a tabloid fixation on his marriage to Courtney Love and later their newborn daughter. But Nirvana kept pushing ahead with In Utero in 1993, and later that year performed an unplugged set in New York for MTV, an unwitting swan song for a generation-defining band. The following year, in Rome, Cobain overdosed on a mix of pills and alcohol. Back in Seattle, his friends and family staged an intervention. Cobain agreed to enter rehab, but left after a few days.
Kurt Cobain, the leader of one of rock's most gifted and promising bands, Nirvana, is dead, and this is the story as we know it so far. Cobain's body was found in a house in Seattle on Friday morning. He was dead of an apparently self-inflicted child to the head. Police found what is said to be a suicide note at the scene, but have not yet divulged its contents. Cobain, who was 27, had reportedly been missing for about 6 days, according to his mother.
Another decade, another era. The 21st century brought us broadband, iPods, social media, reality TV, auto-tune, and the last gasp of a record business still trying to sell CDs in a world where all music was suddenly free. And in the middle of all this comes a singer from London who sounded like she'd just stepped out of a 1960s Motown session. By the time Back to Black arrived in 2006, Amy Winehouse had the world's attention. The record became a global hit, one of the best-selling albums of the decade and among the biggest in UK history.
I think all the stuff I was listening to, like a lot of doo-wop, a lot of 60s soul, Motown, girl groups, they'd make a song cinematic almost, just, because there wasn't a lot going on then, and I like that, I really like that drama. So much music nowadays is so like, you don't know me, I don't need you, and all the music then was kind of like, I don't care if you don't love me. I will lie down in the road, pull my heart out and show it to you. Do you know what I mean?
Amy Winehouse.
She took home 5 Grammys in a single night at the 50th Grammy Awards, the first British woman to do so. She had the music industry in the palm of her hand, and then she let it slip away. Amy's slide didn't start with fame, but her success did speed it up. She'd always liked to drink. According to interviews, she started on Jack and Coke when she was just 12. Alcohol was always her crutch, and when her success reached its apex and the scrutiny on her life and relationships became relentless, it spiraled into full-blown abuse. This resulted in missed call times, cancelled shows, and a 2011 tour that fell apart after a disastrous opening night in Belgrade. This final live performance is heartbreaking to witness. Clips circulated online within hours, headlines followed, and within days, the rest of the tour was cancelled. By now, it did just seem like a matter of time.
The Brit and Grammy award-winning singer Amy Winehouse has died at her home in North London. The 27-year-old had struggled with drink and drug problems for a number of years and recently finished a rehab course. She's most famous for her album Back to...
My greatest fear is probably dying with no one knowing of any contribution I'd ever made to creative music. But that's cool because I made an album already that I'm so proud of, that, you know, if I died tomorrow, touch wood, you know, I would still feel fulfilled in a way.
This series of tragic coincidences has given rise to the pop culture phenomenon known as the 27 Club. But despite the mythical aura around it, it's really just one of history's strange and haunting quirks. There's no 27 Club. Just a string of remarkable lives cut short by misfortune, by self-destructive choices, by the consequences of decisions made at their own personal crossroads.